Snow across the southeast on Sunday, that's what multiple weather models are showing. But the details matter more than the headlines, and this system has proven difficult to pin down. Right now, conditions across the country are setting up for a significant pattern shift. And if you re in the southeast, you are about to see temperatures drop dramatically after what's been an unusually warm week. Let me walk you through what we were seeing, what the models are showing, and what you need to know. This one to be quick, there's a lot to cover, both for Sunday's event and for what's coming after that, because the pattern developing over the next 2 weeks looks increasingly active for winter weather across much of the eastern United States. Starting with current conditions. Across the Gulf Coast from Texas through Louisiana and into Mississippi, it's been warm and humid. Temperatures running 10 to 15 degrees above normal. Some areas hit 60 degrees today. That warm, unstable air mass has been sitting over the region. In South Carolina, it's been rainy, near record warmth this week. That changes dramatically starting tomorrow night. Eastern Colorado saw temperatures drop to 17 degrees this morning, wind chills down to 5 degrees. That's the Arctic air we were going to be tracking as it moves east. South central Wisconsin was seeing rain earlier. Some areas are now reporting snow starting to fall. That's how quickly this transition is happening as the first system moves through. The contrast across the country couldn't be sharper. And that contrast is about to compress as Arctic air pushes south. Now let us talk about the Sunday system, the one that's been frustrating to forecast. Multiple weather models show accumulating snow across parts of Georgia, possibly into the Florida Panhandle and portions of the Carolinas. But there is significant disagreement on exactly where the heaviest snow falls and how far northwest the precipitation extends. The European model, historically one of the most reliable, shows moderate to heavy snow developing Sunday morning across southern Georgia. We talking about the panhandle of Florida, areas around Valdosta, even down toward the coast near Savannah. The model brings snow rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour during the peak of the event. But here is what makes this complicated. The cold air is coming from an unusual direction. It's diving down from the northwest, hitting the Appalachian Mountains, and creating what meteorologists call a cold air damming effect. Think of it like filling a bathtub. The cold air builds up against the mountains, then eventually spills over and around them. This means areas in southern Georgia could see snow, while portions of central South Carolina are still seeing rain. Not because southern Georgia is colder in general, but because the shallow, dense Arctic air is able to slide underneath the mountains and reach the coast faster than it can push over the higher terrain into the Piedmont. The global forecast system model shows a similar pattern. Heavy wet snow developing across central and southern Georgia Sunday morning, 2 to 3 inches possible in some areas. Valdosta could see significant accumulation. This would be their second notable snow event in just over a year. For Atlanta, both models keep most of the moisture to the east and south. But there's a narrow band where rain could transition to snow if the system trends further northwest. We talking about a zone from southern Atlanta suburbs through Augusta and up toward Columbia, South Carolina. Charlotte sits right on the edge. Some model runs bring snow into the southern suburbs. Others keep it all rain. This is not a high-confidence forecast for that area. The short-range models add more uncertainty. The North American mesoscale model shows an aggressive push of snow northwest. It brings a narrow band of 2 to 4 inches from central Georgia through Columbia and up toward the Raleigh area. But this model has been inconsistent. Run-to-run changes have been significant. The high-resolution rapid refresh model takes a completely different approach. It shows mostly rain across the region with only limited snow mixing in across southeast Alabama and parts of Georgia. Nothing accumulates in the Carolinas at all on this model, so what do we actually expect? Here is my assessment based on the data. High confidence that portions of Georgia will see accumulating snow Sunday. The National Weather Service has issued winter weather advisories for central Georgia. They reforecasting 1 to 2 inches in some areas. That's a human forecast, not just a model output. And it aligns with what the European model has been showing consistently. Medium confidence for areas from Columbia, South Carolina, up through Charlotte and into the central Carolinas. The moisture will be there. The question is whether enough cold air works in fast enough to support snow instead of rain. Surface temperatures Sunday morning will be marginal. We talking about temperatures in the mid to upper 30s. That is warm enough for rain initially. But if precipitation rates increase and we get what is called dynamic cooling, where heavy precipitation cools the air column, then a transition to snow becomes possible. For this to work out for places like Colombia, we need two things. First, the precipitation needs to arrive later in the day rather than early morning, more time for cold air to work in. Second, we need heavier precipitation rates, light rain to cool the column enough, but moderate to heavy precipitation can drop temperatures several degrees quickly. Lower confidence for areas northwest of Charlotte. Greenville, Spartanburg, Asheville, the mountains of North Carolina. Some models show snow, others show rain. It depends entirely on how far northwest the moisture axis extends. Right now, ID say chances decrease significantly the further northwest you go from Charlotte, and virtually no confidence for northern Georgia, northern Alabama, or eastern Tennessee on this particular system. Some models try to bring moisture that far west, but most keep the heaviest precipitation well to the east. Now let's talk timing because that matters for preparation. Saturday night stays dry across most of the region. Temperatures drop into the 30s and low 40s. Not cold enough for snow yet. Sunday morning between 4 and 7 a.m., light precipitation begins across southern Georgia and the South Carolina low country. This starts as rain in most areas. Temperatures in the upper 30s to low 40s. By mid-morning, 9 to 11 a.m., precipitation intensifies across central and southern Georgia. This is when the transition to snow likely occurs in areas that will see it. Cold air continues working in from the north and west. Late morning into early afternoon, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. This is the window for potential snow in Columbia, Augusta, and areas of the Central Carolinas. If it's going to happen, this is when. Precipitation rates need to be moderate to heavy for the changeover to occur. By mid to late afternoon, the system begins pulling away from the South Carolina coast. Any snow that falls will be tapering off by 3 to 4 p.m. in most areas. Evening hours Sunday, the system moves up the coast. There could be a swath of accumulating snow from eastern North Carolina through the Tidewater region of Virginia, possibly into southern Maryland and Delaware. But that is a separate discussion from the southeast snow. What about snowfall amounts? Again, this is where confidence drops. For southern and central Georgia, 1 to 3 inches seems reasonable where snow occurs. This will be heavy, wet snow, the kind that sticks to trees and power lines, not the light, fluffy snow you see with temperatures in the teens and 20s. If Columbia or Augusta see snow, we were probably talking about 1 to 2 inches at most. And it might be a brief period of heavy snow before changing back to rain or ending altogether. Charlotte and areas further north, if they see anything, it would be light accumulation, dusting to an inch, and that is only if everything comes together perfectly. Compare this to January of last year. Atlanta saw 3 to 4 inches of snow in a similar setup. But that system had better cold air in place and higher precipitation rates. This system is weaker and more progressive. It is moving through faster. Less time for heavy accumulation. The practical implications depend on where you are. For southern Georgia, prepare for winter driving conditions Sunday. Roads will be slick. Visibility could drop during heavy snow. This is not something that happens every year in Valdosta or Waycross. Take it seriously if you need to travel. For the Central Carolinas, the uncertainty makes this harder. You could wake up Sunday to rain that never changes over, or you could see a quick burst of heavy snow that drops an inch or two before ending. Keep an eye on updated forecasts Saturday night and Sunday morning. The National Weather Service will issue warnings if confidence increases. Don't rely on surface temperature alone to determine if you will see snow. I've seen it snow with surface temperatures at 38 degrees when precipitation rates are heavy enough. The cooling happens in the air column above the surface first, then works its way down. If you're in Florida or southern Georgia and you done to regularly deal with winter weather, multiple thin layers work better than trying to find a heavy coat you don't own. A long sleeve shirt, a fleece, and a windbreaker will keep you warmer than a single jacket. Now let's shift gears because what happens after Sunday might be more significant than Sunday itself. The weather pattern developing across North America over the next 2 weeks shows repeated opportunities for winter weather across much of the eastern United States. And I'm not speculating here. This is based on consistent model guidance showing a specific atmospheric setup. Starting Monday and Tuesday next week, another shot of very cold air moves into the central and eastern states. This is separate from the Sunday system. Temperatures will run 20 to 30 degrees below normal across portions of the Midwest and Ohio Valley. We talking about highs in the single digits and teens. Overnight lows well below zero in some areas. That cold air moderates slightly by Wednesday, but then another system develops across the southern plains midweek. By Thursday, January 23rd, models show a winter storm developing across Oklahoma, Arkansas, and the Mid-South. The European model brings significant ice accumulation to portions of Arkansas and southern Missouri, freezing rain mixing with sleet, the kind of event that causes major tree damage and power outages. Behind that system, more Arctic air pushes south, and this is where it gets interesting for the longer range. Around Sunday, January 26th, both the European model and the American GFS model show a major winter storm developing across the southeast and mid-Atlantic. And when I say both models agree, I mean they re-showing the same time frame, similar track, and comparable intensity. That doesn't happen often at 7 days out. The setup would be classic cold air damming east of the Appalachians with a coastal low-pressure system. Heavy snow possible from Tennessee through the Carolinas. Ice potential where warm air overruns the shallow cold layer. Exactly the kind of high-impact winter event this region sees maybe once or twice a winter. I'm not making a specific forecast for that time frame yet. 7 days is too far out for details, but it's a time frame to watch closely. The ingredients are coming together: cold air in place, active southern stream, coastal development potential, and it doesn't stop there. The pattern remains active through the end of January and possibly into early February. Why is this happening? Let me explain the meteorology briefly. The Madden-Julian oscillation, which tracks tropical convection around the globe, is moving into phase 8. That is historically a favorable phase for cold and winter weather across the eastern United States in late January and early February. At the same time, we seeing what S called a negative Eastern Pacific oscillation. That S a warm anomaly near Alaska. When Alaska warms up, it dislodges Arctic air southward into Canada and eventually the United States. That's what happened earlier this month with the extreme cold outbreak. And it's about to happen again. The upper level pattern shows a persistent trough, an area of low pressure and cold air setting up over the eastern 2/3 of the country. Meanwhile, high pressure builds across the western states. This creates a temperature gradient, cold air on one side, relatively mild air on the other, and where those air masses meet, storm systems develop. For winter weather enthusiasts, this is about as good as it gets for late January. We haven't seen a pattern this favorable since January of 2022. That winter produced multiple significant snow events across the mid-Atlantic and southeast. Temperature-wise, expect well below normal for the next 10 to 14 days across most areas east of the Rockies. The Climate Prediction Center's 8 to 14-day outlook shows high confidence in below normal temperatures from the Midwest through the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. Even portions of the Deep South could run 5 to 10 degrees below normal. And precipitation. The jet stream pattern supports an active storm track from Texas through the Tennessee Valley and up the East Coast. Multiple systems, not just one. The Weather Prediction Center shows a slight risk of heavy snow extending from the Midwest through the Ohio Valley and into the central Appalachians for the late January timeframe. That's their way of saying there's an elevated probability of a significant winter event. They don't issue those outlooks lightly. For those keeping track of analog years, this pattern resembles late January of 1996 and late January of 2003. Both of those periods produced major winter storms across the southeast and mid-Atlantic. I know some of you have been waiting for snow. Maryland, parts of Virginia, areas that typically see winter weather but haven't seen much this year. 2 years without a major snowstorm in some locations. This pattern has potential to change that. But I am not going to promise anything. Weather doesn't work on wishes. It works on physics. What should you do with this information? First, don't panic. Winter means cold air and storms. This is normal meteorology, not unprecedented. Second, if you're in an area that could see winter weather over the next 2 weeks, make sure you re-prepared. Check your supplies, batteries, flashlights, non-perishable food, water, medications, especially medications. If you're on a prescription that you can go without, don't wait until the storm is here to refill it. For those in the northern tier states, you know the drill. You deal with this every winter. Make sure your snowblower is serviced. Check your furnace. Clear your gutters and downspouts before ice builds up. For those further south where winter weather is less common, take it seriously when it does happen. A half-inch of ice in Atlanta has more impact than 6 inches of snow in Buffalo. Not because Atlanta can handle weather, but because the infrastructure isn't built for it. Power lines aren't designed for ice loading. Road treatments are limited. Drivers don't have experience with black ice. If you are elderly or have elderly neighbors, check on them. Make sure they have heat, food, and a way to communicate if power goes out. The majority of weather-related deaths during winter storms are older adults. Heart attacks from shoveling snow, hypothermia from inadequate heating, carbon monoxide poisoning from improper generator use. Which brings me to generators. If you use one, it goes outside, away from windows and doors, at least 20 feet from the house. Every year, people die from running generators in garages or basements. You can smell carbon monoxide. By the time you feel symptoms, it might be too late. Let me address something else. Forecast uncertainty and how to handle it. Some of you are frustrated by forecasts that change. You want certainty. I understand that. But weather forecasting at 3 to 7 days out isn't an exact science. It is probability-based. Models show possible outcomes. Meteorologists interpret those models, apply experience and pattern recognition, and make educated assessments. When a forecast changes, it's not because meteorologists are incompetent, it's because the atmosphere is chaotic. Small changes in initial conditions lead to different outcomes. That is why we run multiple models. That is why we look at ensemble forecasts with 51 members instead of just one deterministic run. The goal isn't to tell you exactly what will happen a week from now. The goal is to give you enough information to make informed decisions, to prepare appropriately, to understand the potential. If a forecast shows a 30% chance of 6 inches of snow, that doesn't mean you will definitely get 6 inches. It means there's a 3 in 10 probability, which also means there's a 7 in 10 probability you won T. But that 30% is worth paying attention to if snow would significantly impact your plans. This Sunday system is a perfect example. Could Columbia see 2 inches of snow? Yes. Could Columbia see all rain? Also yes. Both outcomes are within the range of model guidance. I can tell you with certainty which one happens. But I can tell you the ingredients are there for snow, and you should be aware of the possibility. Looking specifically at the energy associated with Sunday's system, we were dealing with what meteorologists call a positively tilted shortwave trough. The upper level disturbance is oriented from southwest to northeast. That's not ideal for storm intensification. When a trough goes from a positive tilt to neutral, that's when storms strengthen. When it goes from neutral to negative tilt, that's when you get rapid intensification. Bomb cyclones, nor'easters that bury the coast. This system never achieves that. It remains positively tilted throughout its life cycle. That means it's progressive, fast-moving, not particularly intense, a weak system. But weak systems can still produce snow. You don't need a bomb cyclone to get 2 inches of accumulation. You just need enough moisture, enough lift, and cold enough temperatures. All three are present to varying degrees with this system. The 500 millibar level, about 18,000 feet up, shows the trough digging southeast Sunday morning. The core of the coldest air aloft is over the Ohio Valley in western North Carolina. But the moisture is further southeast over Georgia and South Carolina. Where those two overlap, you get snow. Where the cold air hasn't quite reached yet, you get rain trying to transition. Where the moisture doesn't extend, you stay dry. It's a balancing act. And right now, southern Georgia appears to be in the sweet spot. Central Carolinas are on the edge. Northwest areas likely miss out. Now, what about after this system clears? Monday brings high pressure and clearing skies. Temperatures recover slightly but remain below normal. Highs in the 40s across the southeast, 30s in the mid-Atlantic, 20s across the Ohio Valley. Tuesday, a weak system brushes the region. Probably not significant for winter weather, but it keeps clouds around and temperatures suppressed. Wednesday, that moderation I mentioned earlier begins. Temperatures climb back toward normal or slightly above across the deep south, but the northern tier states remain cold. The temperature gradient increases. And that's when the next system starts to develop. Thursday, we rewatching a potential winter event across the southern plains and mid-south. Too early for specifics, but the setup looks concerning for ice across Arkansas and southern Missouri. Freezing rain is far more damaging than snow. A quarter-inch of ice can snap tree limbs and bring down power lines. A half-inch of ice causes widespread, long-duration outages. If you were in that region, monitor forecasts closely Wednesday and Thursday. This has the potential to be a high-impact event. Friday and Saturday, that system moves into the Ohio Valley and potentially the Mid-Atlantic. Whether it produces snow or rain depends on the track. A track further south favors snow, a track further north favors rain, or a mix. And then we get to next Sunday, January 26. The time frame both major models are highlighting. The European model develops a surface low-pressure system over the Gulf Coast. That low moves northeast along the coast. Meanwhile, Arctic air is entrenched from the Appalachians westward, classic setup for significant winter weather. The model shows heavy snow from eastern Tennessee through the Carolinas, ice across central North Carolina where warm air overruns the cold layer. Coastal areas might see rain or they might see snow if the low tracks close enough to shore. The GFS model shows something similar: major winter storm, heavy snow inland, ice in the transition zone, potentially a large, high-impact event. At 7 days out, I am not going to give you snowfall totals or specific locations. That would be irresponsible. But I am telling you this is a legitimate threat. It's not hype. It is not speculation based on wild outlier model runs. Both reliable models show it. The pattern supports it. The teleconnections favor it. By Monday or Tuesday of next week, we'll have much better clarity. Until then, be aware, be prepared. Don't obsess over specifics that could change. Beyond that system, the pattern stays active. Late January into early February continues to look cold and stormy for much of the east. The 3 to 4 week outlook from the Climate Prediction Center shows below normal temperatures likely across the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and parts of the Southeast. It also shows above normal precipitation across the eastern states. That combination in winter usually means snow. For winter weather fans in areas that typically see snow but haven't gotten much this season, this is your window. Late January and early February. If it doesn't happen during this period, you might not see significant snow this winter. Not trying to be pessimistic, just realistic. After early February, the climatological window starts closing. For areas like Maryland, Northern Virginia, Pennsylvania, this pattern could deliver. You've been waiting. You've watched systems miss to the south or trend too warm. This pattern has the cold air in place. Now we need the moisture to time up correctly. I'll wrap this up with a few final thoughts. Weather forecasting involves communicating uncertainty. I show you model guidance because it is informative, because it gives you a sense of what is possible. But model guidance isn't a forecast. It's data, raw data that needs interpretation. When the National Weather Service issues winter storm warnings, that's a forecast. That's human beings with training and experience making a call. Until then, what I am showing you is guidance, possibilities, scenarios. Some of you get your hopes up when you see model runs showing significant snow, then you disappointed when the next run shows less. I understand that, but try to keep perspective. Focus on the trends rather than individual runs. If multiple runs show similar patterns, that increases confidence. If runs are all over the place, confidence is lower. For Sunday, confidence is moderate for southern Georgia snow, low to moderate for central Carolinas, low for areas northwest of Charlotte. That is my honest assessment based on current data. For late next week into next weekend, confidence is increasing that we'll see another winter weather threat. Exactly where and how much, still uncertain, but the threat is real. Stay informed. Check the National Weather Service forecast for your specific area. They provide detailed forecasts updated multiple times per day. They read the authority. I'll continue updating as new information comes in. If you found this helpful, I appreciate you watching. Stay safe out there. Winter weather can be beautiful, but it demands respect. That's where we stand. Sunday system developing with snow likely in Georgia, possible in the Carolinas, then an active pattern for the rest of January. Multiple systems, repeated cold shots, significant winter weather potential. We'll see how it plays out. Weather doesn't always cooperate with what models show, but right now the data suggests an active period ahead. Be prepared, be patient, and don't let forecast uncertainty paralyze you. Use it to your advantage, prepare for the reasonable worst case, hope for the best. and adjust as new information becomes available. Winter isn't over. In fact, for much of the eastern United States,